On the sun-drenched slope of a silent mountain, two neighbors, Brom and Marin, stood before their identical plots of dry, stubborn earth. They both dreamed of a sanctuary, a place where the air tasted of lavender and the shade was deep and cool. Brom looked at the mountain and saw a challenge to be conquered with a single, heroic blow. Marin looked at the mountain and saw a partner to be understood through 1,000 tiny steps. On the first morning, Bram arrived with a roar of energy. He hauled massive boulders until his back creaked and dug deep trenches until the sun bruised the horizon. He worked with a feverish intensity, convinced that a habit was a muscle to be strained. He believed that if he didn't give everything today, he was giving nothing at all. By nightfall, he had cleared a vast space, but he was too exhausted to even crawl into bed. That same morning, Marin arrived with only a small hand trowel. She did not try to move the boulders. Instead, she chose a goal so small it was impossible to fail. She cleared a circle of stones no larger than a dinner plate. She knew that to change a life, one must first lower the barrier to entry. She tucked a few seeds into the earth, whispered a quiet greeting to the soil, and then she went home to rest. The next week, Bram's plot sat silent. The intensity of his first day had left him brittle, and the memory of the pain acted as a wall. Whenever he thought of the garden, his brain shouted, "Too hard!" and he stayed inside. He was waiting for the right mood or another burst of inspiration, not realizing that intensity creates friction, and friction creates avoidance. Marin, however, returned every single morning. She practiced habit anchoring, arriving at the slope immediately after her first cup of tea. By tying the new garden to an old routine, she didn't have to use her willpower to decide to go. She simply went. Whether the sky was blue or gray, she spent her 20 minutes. She pulled 3 weeds. She added 1 scoop of compost. A month later, Bram felt a sudden burst of guilt. He rushed back to the hillside, working for 10 hours straight to make up for the lost time. He planted expensive, fully grown bushes in a frantic dash, but the soil wasn't ready to hold them. He was chasing the result without respecting the process. By the time he finished, his hands were blistered, and his heart was racing with a desperate, angry hope. While Bram struggled, Marin's small circles began to touch one another. She followed the 2-minute rule. On days when she felt tired, she committed to only 2 minutes of work. Often, once she started, she stayed longer. But the permission to do almost nothing was what kept her coming back every day. Her garden wasn't a project to be finished. It was a conversation she attended to at every dawn. By midsummer, Bram's bushes had withered. He had missed a week of watering during a heat wave because he was overwhelmed by the scale of the task. He stood at the edge of his plot, looking at the dried leaves. He felt like a failure. He had given the mountain his greatest efforts, but because those efforts were intermittent, the mountain had reclaimed the land. Bram walked over to Marin's fence. Her plot was a tapestry of color and life. "How did you do this?" Bram asked. "I worked 10 times harder than you on the days I showed up." Marin smiled and handed him a small watering can. "You gave it your lightning, Bram. It was bright, but it scorched the earth. I gave it my rain. The mountain doesn't care for how hard you can run. It only cares that you do not stop walking." Bram finally understood that a habit is not a mountain to climb, but a path to walk. He took the can and watered one small corner of his land. He didn't try to save the whole hillside. He simply committed to 5 minutes, knowing that the greatest power isn't the strength of the storm, but the persistence of the tide. He stopped trying to be perfect and started trying to